Meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. Can we have the roll, please?
Yes, thank you. Trustee Clark?
Here.
Trustee Collum?
Here.
Trustee Davis-Ford?
Here.
Trustee Levinson?
Present.
Trustee Rosner?
Here.
Trustee Schnall?
Here.
And President Torpey?
Here.
Thank you. Adequate notice of this meeting had been provided to the press on August 2nd in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. In addition, notice of the meeting was posted in Village Hall on the village website and has been filed in the office of the village clerk. Official action may be taken at tonight's meeting.
Thank you. And we have one resolution to begin our meeting for executive session.
Yes, this is Resolution 2013-182, is a resolution authorizing an executive session at tonight's meeting of the Board of Trustees.
Now, before I read the items, does this resolution allow us to meet in executive session after the planning meeting if we still need the time? We discussed that earlier, or do we need a separate?
Well, we can. You can adjourn that executive session and continue it today. Sure.
Okay. So the items on that agenda, just in case we're going to only try and keep this to 15 minutes so we can come back out here at 7:15. But we do have to get through a few things tonight, including volunteer applications, the village clerk reappointment, and Jersey Animal Coalition matter.
I move.
Moved by Trustee Collum.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll be back out here in 15 minutes. Okay, thank you, everybody. Before we reconvene our meeting, I just want to mention that we are recessing our executive session, not closing it out. We still have one pending item, which is a village clerk reappointment. We'll be meeting after our planning meeting in executive session to discuss that, and that will be in the conference room at SOPAC, right after our planning meeting, which is right after this. Could we have another roll call, please?
Thank you. Trustee Clark?
Still here.
Trustee Column?
Here.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Present.
Trustee Levinson?
Present.
Trustee Rosner?
Here.
Trustee Schnall?
Here.
And President Torpy?
Here.
Thank you.
Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Please stay standing. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try and get through a couple announcements quickly before we get started. One is we are very, very excited to be able to present, along with SOPAC and the Baird, the Outdoor Summer Movies in the Park series. They're going to be at Floods Hills on Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m., August 14th, 21st, and 28th. The three movies selected by almost 500 residents who thank you for all responding to the online survey on SOPAC's website. The three movies are Ghostbusters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and E.T. And are those, Trustee Collins, do you know if those are in that order? Does it go comedy, action, adventure?
That is
classic?
correct.
Okay.
What happens if it rains?
There is a fourth date. The following Wednesday, which is the first Wednesday in September, will be the postponement date.
September 4th.
Trustee Schnall will also be providing raincoats and umbrellas for anybody.
For sure.
Trustee
Hunters.
Schnall, did you want to announce the closed captioning that they're going to be doing?
Yes, actually, that is an important item. So this year, for all the movies, we will be allowing closed captions. So for anybody who's hearing disabled at all, they'll be able to actually enjoy the movie.
Great. Thank you. Adult night at the pool. The second adult night is August 18th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. There will be music and dinner on the deck. Make sure to bring a proof of residency. If you have any questions about this, you can contact the Baird Center, 973-378-7754. We're also still looking for volunteers here in town for the Board of Health, the Environmental Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, and South Orange Parking Authority. If you're interested in any of these volunteer positions or volunteering in any other capacity with the village, there are a number of opportunities. Please go to our website at southorange.org, and on the left-hand side, you'll see a volunteering link, and you can fill out the form there. If you have any questions or want any more information about that, you can also contact the village clerk, 973-378-7715, extension 1, or at clerk@southorange.org. Before we move on to our business this evening, I do want to open our meeting up for public comments. I don't know if we have the sign-in sheet or if anybody here.
No one signed it.
Okay, is there any member of the public that's here who wishes to speak at this time? Yep, just please come up to the podium and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Name is Rich Jano. I live at 514 North Wyoming. Some of you know me. About a month ago, we had a meeting of the...
Closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. It's for people at home, not for us.
Oh, yeah, okay, good, thanks. We had a meeting which involved Trustee Clark, Trustee Davis Ford, Howard,
Levison, yes.
and maybe, were you there? I'm not sure. No. But it's about this characteristic, long 20-year-old water problem having to do with the overflow of Ludington Brook. The water runs down onto North Wyoming Avenue, fills up the avenue when it clogs the storm drains, and then cheerily runs down my driveway and onto the steep houses that are below me on the hillside. So we had outlined the three sort of component approach, and I wanted to see if I could get an update on what's been happening.
Our next Public Works meeting is this Thursday, and
Thursday.
yeah, I'm going to follow up with everybody and check in on all those items and get it going again.
We should have it up.
when is the meeting?
It's Thursday, 9 a.m. 9 a.m.
Okay, so I should shut up now and come to the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have your email. I can follow up with you
Okay.
personally on that one.
And speak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Okay.
Quick addition, I was asked by Mr. Profeta what time was likely that we would be discussing the resolutions, and I mistakenly told him probably around 7:40. So I don't know if there was comments in advance that he was going to make, or if they were just going off their comments in the past, or if they were just coming to observe.
Okay.
But that's my mistake.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, if we need any commentary or have any questions for them, we
Okay.
can always reopen that. Seeing as no more members of the public wish to speak at this point, I'd like to close public comments and move on to an ordinance on first reading.
Thank you. This is ordinance 2013-15, an ordinance to amend certain sections of the Code of the Township of South Orange Village, specifically Chapter 152, Section 11, to allow the South Orange Parking Authority to retain certain fees collected for parking permits.
Thank you. If my memory serves me, this is just kind of a logistical item where there are some commuter parking permits along Ridgewood Road and 3rd Street that are not managed for some reason. I'm not sure.
There were 16 or 17 spaces on 3rd and, not on 3rd Street, off of North Ridgewood Road, near the park. And the original intention was, when the parking list was very long and so forth, and the parking authority was going to be raising the rates at the other lot, the village was going to retain the 50% of the revenue from these spots, and the parking authority was going to manage them for us. And the rate, I think, was $480 a year. Turns out only 4 or 5 people have done it because people don't want to pay more for those spots versus the other spots. And so we felt, because parking authority is managing anyway, that it would make more sense to let them manage it and put it into the same pool of parking spaces as the other spaces at the same rate, whatever that rate is and whatever that rate's going to be, to manage it, because the amount of income we're getting is minimal, certainly less than $1,000 a year. So it didn't seem to me make much sense, plus the additional expense that they have due to the jitneys, because back then the jitney was still being funded by a grant. Now the jitney is up to, they're subsidizing to a very large number. Certainly a couple $100,000, I think it is. So this is a way for them to recapture it. So it's less than $1,000 right now. If they can get all 17 spaces out, it helps a little bit. That's the purpose of it.
All right, and so it unifies all of the commuter parking under the parking authority. I know this was discussed at several board meetings in the past. Are there any other questions or comments this evening about it?
It was also discussed at the parking authority meeting.
And the parking authority, that's right. Okay, if there's no more discussion, I'd like to ask for a motion. Moved by trustee Levison.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Davis Ford. Can we have the roll, please?
Thank you. Trustee Clark?
Aye.
Trustee Collin?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
And Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Thank you. So ordinance 2013-15 has passed on first reading. We have a second ordinance tonight. This is a bond ordinance authorizing capital improvements buying for the Township of South Orange Village and appropriating an aggregate amount of $1,035,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $985,250 in aggregate principal amount of bonds or notes to finance part of the cost.
Thank you. Yeah, this is for our capital expenses. Every year we have repairs and maintenance to our municipal buildings, purchase of vehicles, which is, there's actually a resolution on later the agenda for, as well as road construction, repair, and technology, IT upgrades. Is there anything, Mr. Lewis, that you'd like to mention specifically?
No, just, I think I had explained it earlier in my memo. This is sort of part 2 of our 2013 capital. We did an earlier ordinance to allow us to kind of jumpstart some of the road projects. Would point out again that with the $983,000 in debt here in the prior ordinance, we're authorizing a total of about $2.7 million in debt, and we are paying down and paying off about $3.2 million in debt. So we're reducing our overall debt $500,000 through this year's budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, have a motion, please.
Move.
Moved by trustee Levison,
Second.
seconded by trustee Rosner. Could we have the roll, please?
Thank you. We'll start with Trustee Column.
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford.
Yes.
Trustee Levinson.
Yes.
Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Trustee Schnall.
Yes.
And Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Thank you. So ordinance 2013-16 has also passed on first reading.
Thank you.
I move that ordinance 2013-15 and 2013-16 be set down for second and final passage at the September 8th, 2013 meeting of the Board of Trustees, and that a public hearing be held at that time, and that the village clerk be authorized to take necessary action regarding public notice of such hearing.
Thank you. Just with one correction that it is the 9th.
Okay.
So September 9th, yep. Okay, moved by Trustee Davis Ford. Seconded by Trustee Schnall. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next is our consent agenda.
Yes, thank you. We have a number of resolutions tonight on the consent agenda. We have a resolution authorizing the village president to execute the 2013 services agreement with the Community Coalition on Race. This is in the amount not to exceed $18,000. A resolution establishing the Irvington Avenue Corridor Advisory Working Group. A resolution hiring per diem crossing guards in the South Orange Department of Public Safety. This would be the police force. A resolution hiring a per diem telecommunications dispatcher in the South Orange Department of Public Safety, police force. A resolution hiring a substitute building inspector in the South Orange Building Department. A resolution authorizing the placement of a lien on private property. This is for a special cleanup of the private property located at 612 Longview Road in the amount of $1,215.20. A resolution granting raffle license number 1235 to Agape Haiti Incorporated for an off-premise merchandise raffle. Little typo there. A resolution authorizing a part-time electrical inspector in the South Orange Building Department. A resolution adjusting the hourly rate of pay for a part-time office staff employee in the South Orange Department of Recreation and Cultural Affairs. A resolution adjusting the salary of the full-time telecommunications dispatcher trainee in the South Orange Department of Public Safety Police Force. A resolution authorizing the award of contract. This is by a state contract to Rico's Americas Corporation. This is for the lease of 3 Rico copiers, printers, scanner, fax finishers for a 48-month lease period. And this is the amount not to exceed $601.71 per month. A resolution affirming the village administrator's hiring of a full-time tax utility collections clerk in the tax collector's office in the Department of Administration, Revenue, and Finance. We're striking this resolution tonight. It's a resolution hiring a part-time clerk typist in the South Orange Village Tax Collector's Office. The tax collector has asked that this resolution be stricken from the agenda. The resolution affirming the village administrator's hiring of umpires for the 2013 summer season adult softball league in the Department of Recreation and Cultural Affairs. A resolution hiring per diem seasonal laborers in the South Orange Department of Public Works. A resolution appointing Kelly Sullivan as a member to the Senior Citizens Affairs Advisory Committee. A resolution correcting, supplementing, and restating resolution number 2013-179, which sets the 2012 and 2013 salaries for non-union and supervisory personnel. And lastly, we have a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 marked 2013 all-wheel drive Ford Interceptor police vehicles. This will be purchased through the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council contract to approved vendor Buyer Ford in the amount not to exceed $105,371.25.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on any items on the consent agenda?
Yes. I'd like to have a separate discussion on 183 and 200.
And can I pull out 184?
Okay. Pull out as in vote on separately?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, just to discuss separately.
Okay. Did you want to vote on 183 and 200 separately? Or just
183
discuss?
separately and discuss.
Okay, so we'll do 183 separately. Trustee Column on 184.
Yeah, I just wanted to discuss that, and I don't need a separate vote on it.
No, I know, but do you want to go ahead and discuss it now?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Well, the first thing is, I noticed that the guests from the CCR came in. Again, I take full responsibility for telling them that the meeting was starting, so they weren't here for the public comment section. Can we temporarily suspend the rules and reopen public comment if they have
Well, we don't
anything
have to
additional?
suspend the rules, but if we are interested in any comment from them, we can certainly ask them for that. It is their
Would that be
service
okay with the
level
board?
agreement.
Yeah, when it comes up.
No, we've already had public comment open and then closed, and now we're
Well,
into.
when we get to that resolution, which we're voting on separately after the consent
That's
agenda,
what
if there's
I'm
any,
talking about.
if there's any comments or questions that we have for them, we can ask them
Okay.
to come up and speak,
Okay.
which will be in a few minutes.
No problem.
So-
So the Irvington Avenue Corridor Advisory Committee, this was agreed to at the last board meeting, and we attempted to kind of create that group of stakeholders that would best be representative of all the people who would be interested, perhaps in this specific project. I'm not married to anything that's in there, so before we kind of passed it, I just wanted to see if there was anything additional that you thought was missing from this advisory committee group.
My one thought on that one was that you have a lot of seats sort of required. Are you going to be able to function if you cannot fill all of the seats?
Well, I went through this with our village clerk, and I think that even if only half of each of the stakeholder groups showed up to any given meeting, we would still be able to get quorum pretty easily. So I'm pretty comfortable. I didn't want to limit anybody. There's the 4 resident at large seats, and I think we might probably get more interest than the 4 there. So I just want to make it clear to the public that even if you're not appointed per se to the committee, that we'd still welcome involvement from people to help and volunteer.
The one suggestion that I would have is that this be, perhaps the scope be kind of explicitly stated to include working with Maplewood and Newark and Seton Hall. I think one of the things that has prevented larger development of this corridor is that we have a road where you have 3 municipalities that share a space. You have South Orange on the north side, Maplewood on the south side, and Newark on kind of the east side.
Yes.
And I know I've talked to the councilman in Newark in the West Ward, Councilman Ron Rice, and he had talked about some of the frustration of his business owners because they want to do things, but they're kind of confined to just looking at Newark when they're talking about it. So I just want to make sure that some part of this is going to be reaching out to Maplewood and Newark and seeing if there's some way to, whether, if the end goal, is creating an improvement district that encompasses the 3 municipalities, some way to share and collaborate between the 3 municipalities a little bit, just to make that kind of a clear goal, if that is part of the goal.
I think that's a great suggestion. Should we just make an amendment into
Actually,
the
I want to.
resolution?
I have no problem reaching out to them, but I think we should define our goals for South Orange first, and then reach out to Maplewood and Newark, and bring them into our discussion. But I think we as a group should know where we want to go with it. Otherwise, I just think we should set our goals first before we meet with them, and then we can always adjust our goals. But I think we should have some clear understanding and get our committee going, and then invite them in.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting positions necessarily, to include, but even in the beginning, honestly, not to say that the committee shouldn't have its own goals for South Orange, but the goals of South Orange are pretty intertwined with the goals of Maplewood or Newark, on the same street.
The coordination is going to be really important. Maplewood, I believe, they're still in the process of waiting to see if they get it or not, but they applied for a Together North Jersey grant, and that would have been a very good opportunity for both South Orange and Maplewood to look at that corridor a little bit more comprehensively together. So if you're okay with it, Mr. President, maybe not adjust the language, but get a commitment from whatever trustee liaisons that will certainly coordinate with them and reach out to them in developing what the master plan is.
Because I asked to be one of the liaisons on that organization, and I would not be against a more comprehensive and encompassing plan.
Yeah, I think it's just simple language in one of these whereas paragraphs just saying, kind of when you're talking about the goals, maybe in the third one, a working group to examine, develop zoning, and just say, and collaborate with, other municipalities that share, borders and similar interests along the Irvington Ave corridor. Just something that clearly states that, part of this committee's responsibilities is going to be working with the neighboring municipalities, just to make sure that that isn't lost.
Okay.
And I'm really okay with any language as long as that's that concept, I guess, is part of this. If that makes sense.
So,
Okay. Any other suggestions on this resolution? And this was the one that I particularly wanted posted to the village website and added to the volunteer directory so that hopefully it moves forward tonight and then we can announce it to the residents and encourage them to apply and sign up to be involved. This is a great example of a project where we're so far in advance where we can really kind of start building the consensus amongst all the stakeholders. And this project, you know, a year from now can really be moved along nicely.
Do you have language, sorry, Ty, do you have language that you want to use just for the other piece there?
I just wrote in consult with other stakeholder groups that border the Irvington Avenue corridor.
yeah, that's pretty much what I have too. Consult and collaborate.
Could
Does that
we
work?
just be specific as, you know, either mention Maplewood and Newark or, you know, municipal stakeholders? Just make sure that we are,
Including-
there's 3 municipalities working
Including but
together.
not limited
Yeah.
to Maplewood, Newark.
Okay.
And Seton Hall, I would include.
Well, there's a Seton Hall spot on the,
There is, although it's not mentioned in the resolution itself. Maybe it doesn't matter. Either one is fine with me.
Robin, do you have that?
I have it. Thank you.
Okay, was that everything Trustee Conley wanted to discuss with this resolution? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Going down the list, is there anything else you have questions about?
Yeah, 200.
Anything before 200? Nope, okay. Trustee Levison?
I had requested that we describe the car purchase with all-in costs. This is only for the cars, it doesn't include all of the other components.
Yeah, we'll get and provide to everyone the quote all-in costs. I know he was waiting for a quote for the transfer of the MDTs and radios from whatever cars they come out of. So that's one cost. The only other cost is the, like putting the logo and the lettering.
Decals and...
Right. So we will get those. He's getting, the chief is awaiting quotes. I will include those, get them out to everyone. And then also to your other point, I'm in the process of going through with him their entire inventory to say which cars are going to where, which are moving down in the fleet.
Yeah, he wanted to auction off the 3 cars, or at least he got an evaluation of the cars and an estimated book
So I
value.
think we got that from Maplewood, which
Right.
is sort of a condition, but yeah.
And you saw that, the
Yeah.
attachment? Okay.
No, I think we just need a spreadsheet that just has that, goes along with this.
Okay.
I think one just kind of important quick thing to point out with these police vehicles is, you know, as Ford has retired the old Crown Victoria the past couple of years, a lot of different companies have started making new police cars. And what we are all very interested in doing here is making sure that we only basically purchase all-wheel drive vehicles in the future, so that you don't have to. The chains on the tires don't really work that well, and they're expensive. And you can actually they break the tires, they break the sides of the cars when the chains come off, which they often do. They do terrible things to the pavement, and so this is a huge help to have extra vehicles on the road. That snow, rain, whatever, you've got vehicles. You don't have to worry about anything. They can get around a lot easier. And so the cost of of having this, where you don't have to take a vehicle off the road and put an SUV on the road, just all of our vehicles at some point will all be all-wheel drive. So just that we wanted to move in that direction.
There'll probably also be hybrid soon because Ford is coming out with a hybrid all-wheel drive police car.
Yeah.
not soon enough.
What?
Not soon enough.
Or will they have a
Not so-
Jaguar?
All right,
Well,
trustee
it's-
environmental.
It's actually there already, but it's a good 50% more expensive and it's still not 100% ready.
Right. Okay, are there any other questions on the consent agenda, with the consent agenda being as is except 183 having been moved, as well as 195 being taken off?
You want to move that as a group? And then do the 180
Yeah, we'll do 183 separately.
separate?
I move.
Second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Davis Ford, seconded by Trustee Reisner. Can we have the roll, please?
Okay. We will start with Trustee Davis Ford,
Yes.
Trustee Levinson.
Yes.
Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Trustee Schnall.
Yes.
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
And Trustee Collins.
Yes.
Thank you. So the consent agenda has been approved. Resolution 2013-183 has been removed for separate action. So So we'll go into that resolution now. Again, 183 is a resolution authorizing the village president to execute the 2013 services agreement with the Community Coalition on Race. This is the amount not to exceed $18,000.
Thank you. Was it the wish of the trust? I don't know if people had specific questions for the Community Coalition on Race, or if there were questions among the board about this resolution.
Trustee Levinson brought it up, so.
I asked all my questions on the last meeting, and I
Okay.
think we spent a significant amount of time in discussion regarding this.
That we did. Trustee Collin, were you interested in hearing from the Community Coalition on Race?
Yeah, I didn't know if they were planning on signing in, and they're here now, so
No.
I
Okay.
just... Okay.
One thing I would, you did find at the dais, there was a printout.
Yes.
There was an email sent later this afternoon. I didn't know if everyone was going to have an opportunity to see it in their emails about 4:30, so I did provide copies to everyone. And that was in specific response to, I think, questions that Trustee Levison raised, and that was a response from the coalition.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I think they have in good faith attempted to respond to as many of the issues as they were able to on reporting, et cetera, and including a couple go-arounds with Howard on some of his questions.
Ditto,
Lovely.
Trustee Clark.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Yep.
I did receive it this afternoon, and thank you for sending it forward. I'm still not satisfied with the response. It didn't answer the questions about the service level agreement, both in metrics for what you're trying to accomplish for the various tasks, as well as the associated cost. And the other item being the loan program, I have some difficulty in some of the objectives that had been set out on the loan program. I did get what you currently have in the bank, being $75,000. I don't see why it's in the service level agreement, since it's a ongoing project that you're not asking for anything from us. You already have it funded, and I assume that it's moving forward.
Were you interested in their response, or just?
I would second that it shouldn't be in the service level agreement. It should be, maybe we should consider when you do the service level agreement with Maplewood, that we also put together an agreement how the loan program, and have Maplewood and South Orange sign off on it. But to me, it's a very separate agreement and should not be part of the annual service level agreement.
Based on a few more comments to go off of what I said at the last meeting, I think I was a little rigid in my view of no funding for this year. And it didn't seem like there was a majority of support on this board that wanted to kind of pursue what I had hoped would be 1 year with no funding to get metrics and also stay away from some of the activities that I don't think should be subsidized by tax dollars. The alternative, if the board is interested in meeting me halfway, is that I find that full funding suggests that we're completely content with the direction of the organization and that everything that they proposed is something that we're interested in pursuing, and I just don't think we're there. So one thing I would like the board to consider, and I'm willing to meet you halfway, is if we could take this number down to 12,000, I think it would be a little bit more appropriate. I think they're welcome to come back next time around, but I think there's an opportunity for us to reach some level of compromise. I think the full funding suggests that we're in a perfectly good place with the activities of the CCR, and I think that the past has suggested to us that there's still a lot to be desired. So I'm going to move to amend Resolution 183 for the amount not to exceed $12,000, and I hope somebody will support me on it.
I'll second that.
Okay, there was a second by Trustee Schnall. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Were you two in favor or opposed?
You might need to roll call it.
Yeah. Why don't we just take a roll call for safety's sake?
That's on the motion to amend. That's on the motion to amend.
That's on the motion to amend.
Okay, let me repeat this. So we have a motion to amend Resolution 183 so that the funding would be in the amount not to exceed $12,000. We have a motion from Trustee Collins, seconded by Trustee Schnall. I'll take a roll call. We'll start with Trustee Levinson.
No.
Thank you. Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
No. No.
No. And Trustee Collins?
Yes.
And what about Trustee Davis?
And Trustee Davis Ford?
No.
Okay, I need to then ask our president to break the tie, and may I have your vote, sir?
No.
Thank you. So that motion to amend did not pass.
My comment to the reasoning behind voting no and the $12,000, I still don't know what the $12,000 is going to be used for. There is no specificity to where those monies will be applied and what the metrics are for measuring that they have accomplished those tasks. I have a problem that the service level agreement has still not been fulfilled. But defining the service level agreement, it still hasn't been fulfilled.
I don't disagree with you, but the problem is that we have some members of the board who are looking to end up somewhere in the middle with this. I'm not going to be supporting the $18,000. My recommendation was similar to yours, no funding. So I just don't want this to be like the charter questions where we all want something different and then there's no real consensus reached on it.
Well, with all due respect, I think if we had a response from them, which included those kinds of questions answered that were asked, maybe it could be supported. But I can't support something that is just, the money can be used anywhere.
I'd like to say, I mean, I actually like the compromise. I actually like the way Trustee Collin has presented it as a way of, I mean, I think we all agree that the mission is a very important one, and I actually applaud the organization for taking on what I consider an extremely challenging and sensitive topic. And it's something that in our unique community, I think serves a very worthy purpose. And I understand that they really have a spotlight on themselves in terms of what they're doing, and I think that's one of the reasons I applaud them, is they're reaching for something that I think is very important but challenging to accomplish. So I tend to offer a little more leniency in that. I agree with this board in terms of the past has been not what we would like to see, and I think their attempts to respond in a reasonably timely fashion to try to work with us, to give us the to try to satisfy us with what they're trying to accomplish. I think that's to be lauded. I agree with Trustee Collin that perhaps the right message at this point in time is to say because we believe in them, that we are willing to fund them to a degree. I think the fact that Maplewood is doing this really makes me feel like we should be doing this. And that's why I thought the compromise was actually a pretty fair one. Again, I don't know if there's a number here that makes people happy. It just feels to me that we should be telling this group that is aspiring to do something very important for our community that should and it probably needs to be done by a very specialized group who are either trained or have discussed these topics in full. And in fact, the task forces that I saw from the 5 task forces that are being worked on and attempted to be completed by next month really give me a lot more confidence that they're moving in the direction that we would like them to move in. And for that reason, I'd like to give them the chance. I'd like us to fund them. If the message we're trying to offer is, as Trustee Collin says, let's not give them a complete everything they've asked for, but tell them that we want to work with them in a collaborative fashion to accomplish what we all want to accomplish. I'm in favor of that. So I still would like to see us pass something. I think it would be a shame for us not to pass that today.
It doesn't mean that we're not going to pass it. It just means that we just voted no on the
But I think
amendment.
the message that Trustee Collin was saying is one that I think makes some sense, which is there has been some issues in the past. There's some uncertainties still today. I think it also is a very good message for this board to come in a much more than a fractured way, to actually strongly stand behind something in a common way. I think that says quite a bit. I think it's something where we should try to aspire to.
And Trustee Levison, the other thing is that I know you really want these metrics, and as our Finance Committee Chair, I want you to have all the metrics that you want with any SLA that we enter into. I think by reducing the amount to $12,000, we can work with the CCR over the next year in trying to get those deliverables to you, and hopefully it will also, for me personally, the issues that I raised during the last meeting in terms of the actual activities of the organization, I'd like to see them over the next fiscal year stay away from some of the things that I think are questionable, and I think that this point next year, we're going to be in a much better place and a stronger place with this organization moving forward.
Well, the resolution doesn't call for that. And the other is that this is the same story we heard last year, and we went through the same. I don't think the service level agreement is any different than it was presented to us last year. And for the past year, we've been asking for the same kind of commitment from them to tell us what services they were going to provide at what cost, and how do we measure that. It still hasn't been fulfilled. The other is from a legal aspect. Can we give money just to a,
Well, we've always said that you have to give it in two things. One, it has to be services that the municipality could perform, and clearly that's the case here. And then it has to be done pursuant to an agreement. Those are the two requirements constitutionally in order for it. You cannot make charitable gifts. That's what the Constitution says you cannot do.
And
So
we
the
met
question
those
is-
two criteria.
Well, the
Those two
question is,
criteria
does
are
this
met.
agreement meet that criteria? That's,
Pardon?
does this agreement satisfy?
I don't know. I have not reviewed that agreement. I have not seen that.
Well, I guess to the
I think-
village
I think the
administrator,
compromise
then,
is-
does it mean?
I thought the compromise was fair.
Can we
Bill.
hear from Mr. Profeta?
Yeah, although, I mean, to be able to take any action tonight, council has to approve it. I mean, you know, we cannot vote on an agreement that council has stated is unaware of whether it's legally acceptable or not. I don't think we can consider it, so, if you can, I don't know if you can quickly review it and see whether it meets those two criteria, but I'd be uncomfortable asking this board to move forward with something that you just stated.
I would prefer to take the time and look at it carefully. I don't want to make a snap judgment.
Okay.
Right,
Sure.
Thank you. With respect to this agreement, the form of this agreement, this is something that has been approved by South Orange since about 1995, Maplewood too, the same form, although now vastly expanded in detail, mostly as a result of what Trustee Levinson wants. So I think certainly the two governing bodies over the years have never had a problem with the legal form of this agreement. And if we're going to take other examples of organizations, the one, for example, for another organization on which I serve on the board, YouthNet, has nowhere near the level of specificity and metrics and assignment of value that this one does. This one is vastly more detailed. And so I fail to see the focus on this particular agreement as important vis-a-vis some of the other ones. I do want to make a point about the lower level of funding, and I appreciate Trustee Cullum your view of the coalition and what you're trying to do, and Trustee Schnall, I also understand your view, and I appreciate very much your view, and I think shared by others, about the task forces and the direction they're going. I will tell you that if we were to get a level of funding that's been being discussed here, a lowered level, it would have a disastrous effect on the coalition's ability to function for the next year, precisely because of where some of these task forces are going. Now, I'm going to give you just a little preview, because this hasn't been passed by the board. But for example, the task force which is exploring the expansion of the focus of the coalition past relations between black and whites is the one that I'm a chair of. And that task force met at my house yesterday afternoon. We've agreed on certain things. The board hasn't. But I will tell you that, for example, some of the things that I think we'll reach consensus on, which will involve marketing to different groups, Asians, Hispanics, and so forth, a further outreach, a proposed international festival, which we would hold either in South Orange Parks or Maplewood, will all cost money. The things that you like that we're proposing to do will cost more money. If you cut us, we can't do the things you'd like us to do. It's as simple as that. And at the same time, we have Maplewood now at a different level. And as Trustee Rosner pointed out last time, this is really, and he and I have agreed about this for years, this should really be the subject of a shared services agreement between Maplewood and South Orange. So if you take a unilateral action now, which would prejudice Maplewood's view of the coalition, the chances of doing that are jeopardized. I mean, that's the way this really ought to be done. And and there are people in the Maplewood Township Committee who believe that too. But if you go off in a different direction, lowering the finance, jeopardizing the chances of the coalition to be able to fulfill some of the very things that you want, that's what this board had said was the impetus for holding that forum we did in the spring, which gave us the ideas for these new directions. You shouldn't jeopardize that, because we're trying to do precisely what you want us to do.
This is a difficult task and mission that your committee that I admire and support. And like any good marriage, it becomes a good marriage because of communication, respect, understanding, and it takes work. You can have a good marriage, and if you fail to continue to do those things, it dissolves into becoming, or evolves into not becoming a good marriage. And someone asked a question, well, when is the work of the coalition going to be over? It's never going to be over. I can tell you to this day, we are comfortable in this community of interacting with different ethnic groups. There's not one block of one ethnic group or whatever, because this organization has helped us, be able to talk about things like the elephant in the room. I still find it very awkward sometimes having conversations about race or difference with people because they're uncomfortable because we don't talk about it. We act like it doesn't exist. And it's important to be able to have an organization that can facilitate conversation about our differences and show how we have so much in common, and to help mitigate those differences. And, if I'm the only one voting for this organization to stay viable and move forward as Fred Profeta has just articulated, then I'm willing to be the only one to support that. I'm willing to stand up for something I powerfully believe that is so important and that has helped this village to be unique and diverse and integrated and healthy. And if we don't continue the work, it can evolve not being as it is.
Yeah, I'd like to make just a couple kind of quick comments and hopefully move us towards making a decision, because I think we do need to decide this and move on. One is that I don't think that, although Trustee Collum, I do understand the idea of trying to use kind of the money as a mechanism to show kind of the level of support for the different activities that are taking place. I know I would certainly say, even though I support the Community Coalition on Race fully in their mission and organization, that doesn't mean that I've always agreed with everything that the coalition has done. I don't think that anybody who is watching could be uncertain about the fact that we are doing our due diligence, and that we may have some of those concerns about things that have happened in the past. I mean, we've been talking about it for months and months, every single year. I don't even want to count the number of hours that we've spent discussing this in these board meetings, so I don't think there's any member of this public who could be watching who could think that we're basically, by giving the full amount, which is not really the full amount because they used to get more, so it's actually less than they used to get. If you want to kind of look at it over a multi-year period, that, there's kind of a tacit, endorsement of every activity that's ever taken place. I think it's clear to anybody watching who's really paying any attention at all that that's not the case, and that we're interested in finding ways to support the organization and doing things that everybody can support. I also just want to add a little bit of perhaps a slightly different perspective too, which is that one of growing up in this community, pretty much since I was a year old in Maplewood and South Orange, which was not that long ago, I suppose. I'll take that before you. But I do think it's important to think about, and I know I have just an unbelievable amount of appreciation for being able to grow up in a community like this and be able to leave Maplewood, South Orange, and go to college or go anywhere else around the country, and have had a background of living in a community that was so, I don't really like the word tolerant because that's a little too passive, but inclusive of a community. It's really an incredible thing, and I don't think there's any way we can even place a dollar value on raising children in the kind of environment that teaches them to be to appreciate and understand and want to learn more about people of different ethnic or cultural backgrounds than themselves. I mean, that's just like an unbelievable thing, and to the degree to which the Community Coalition on Race has supported that in this community, I don't even know how you very easily connect those lines, but from one to the next. It's very hard to quantify, but I think it is real and it's very, very, very important and very valuable. And I've also, having been to many, and I know various members of the board have been to some different events that you guys have put on, I think that the support for the Community Coalition on Race in our community is tremendous. I think that people recognize the value that you play and the role that you play in this community. When we were discussing funding at different times, it's hard because we've discussed it at probably 20 meetings over the past 2 years, but at least 10 of those meetings, or 12 of those meetings, there was many residents here, which I'm sure is only a fraction of the people in this community that support you, talking about their own experiences with the Community Coalition on Race, people of different ethnic or racial backgrounds talking about why they think the Community Coalition on Race is so important. So although I definitely I understand and appreciate some of the concerns and a little bit of the reluctance as far as the funding goes, and that it's been a little bit of a hot button or controversial issue in the past, I think that it's time to fund this. We're talking about thousands of dollars at the end of the day. That's not going to make or break our budget by any stretch, and the money has already been allocated, in fact, for this $18,000 funding, and that we do that and move on from it. I think they've shown that they're willing to take the organization in a direction that's more representative of its membership and of the community. And I also agree with what some folks have said already, that doing this in the future should be done through a shared service collaboration with Maplewood and not individually, so that this process is going to be completely different the next time we do it, no matter what we do tonight, no matter what amount we give tonight. But I would really urge the board to support this at the $18,000 amount, which is the full amount requested this year, but again, less than what we've given in years past. Allow them to continue to do the work and allow us to move on and discuss other things.
I'd just like to appreciate those comments. I have just one question, a confirmation. I brought this up yesterday. I think, Mr. Levison, can you just confirm for me? We still disperse the amounts on a quarterly basis. So if anything that is of concern, where they're not acting in the way that we'd like, there is an opportunity.
It's all allowed.
There is an opportunity then to look at it at each time of disbursement. Is that correct?
Well, it's on the bills list. But the problem is, what are you dispersing it to? What metrics are you using to say that a particular... What will tell you that you have not succeeded in a particular task? I don't argue about the mission. There are some things I have questioned in the service level agreement, but there is no tag of both, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. They talk to what they have done in the past about tours of the village by bringing people in and touring the village. I don't know what their objective was. Was it to be 5 tours at $5,000 per tour? I don't know. How do I measure that? How do I say that they exceeded or they successfully met that goal? I don't know. So you say on a quarterly basis, did they meet their objective? I don't know.
I think
also the question was about if there's anything that happens that is a major concern, and the answer is yes.
If they got involved in an election or some issue.
Right. And the answer to that is yes.
I think it's the flip, but I think to Howie's point, and I know, and actually for Mr. Rother too, it's a very difficult agreement to develop metrics for, because it's such a, you're going to have a minimum number of people that show up to the Martin Luther King thing as a metric, or you're going to say, are you looking at the group in totality? And that's really the only way to really look at it.
We're talking about intangibles, and you can't come up with a number or a success ratio for how many people in the wider, how many potential home buyers have we successfully convinced that this is a racially inclusive town. There's no way to measure that. And I think, to your point, Village President, if you feel like we spent a lot of time hashing this out now, if we try to approach this in a la carte manner, then we're really going to be in the weeds.
But then I go back to what is the service that we're providing, what they're providing as a service that the village would have provided. I go back, and that's really where I'm hung up on it, is the legality of just handing them money to provide services.
It's not the services you are providing, it's services that you could provide if you wanted to.
Correct.
And I'm sure there are many, many services that they're providing that you could provide, but you're not doing it. But Those are the services that you can in fact compensate them for. And I'm interested, and I'm going to sit down with them to see how you can match dollars to the services that the village could normally provide. And if there's a way to do that, there's a way to form a contract.
It's not like a project I would tend to agree with Trustee Clark on this. Going through the service level agreement a bazillion times, it's ultimately the majority of the money goes to their actual staff, the people who are day in and day out providing various services at any given time. It's not specific to X, Y, and Z. It's, you know, a hot button item where they're putting a forum together. It's really kind of the collective of everything that they provide the community. And I could say that outside of South Orange, there's a lot of people who look at South Orange and Maplewood and say, wow, that you make this type of investment. It is very unique to South Orange and Maplewood. And I think that, you know, we have a lot to be proud of. With that said, I still feel we don't have consensus. And so Trustee Levison, I'm coming back at you. I really would love you to meet halfway in the middle. We're one vote away from some level of compromise, because it's not going to be 18 for May. I would prefer 0, but I will meet at 12, and you're a 4th vote. Are you willing to come halfway, and then we'll work with the CCR over the next year?
As I said, I haven't been satisfied.
We just had that vote, and it didn't pass.
I know, I'm trying to persuade him.
I mean, I would really encourage this board to fund the $18,000 and move on. I think we've discussed this enough. I don't think there is anything more to discuss. We've been funding it for decades. I mean, the legality, I mean, we can review it again, but we've been doing it for many years, and I don't think there really is any question about it.
And the real crazy thing about this, for lack of a better way to say it, is that this is a creation of Maplewood and South Orange. This is not an organization that just created itself. The genesis of this organization came from the 2 municipalities. So it's bizarre that we're fighting ourselves. I feel like we're schizophrenic here. This was the genesis of this organization came to help. You know, when it was first right, it helped turn these towns around. And that's why we fared better during these turbulent times and everything else, because of that organization. And what happens is, I know, for example, with my other hat, there's decisions made by the legislative body to fund things that fund the people who deliver the service. You can't put a metrics on it. For example, citizen services. People, you know, to help the homeless or whatever. The money comes in that's voted on and approved is to hire 4 people, and the money is going directly to hire those 4 people to deliver the services. They would never be able to get a contract on metrics measured to service that way. But there's a whole deliverable of meeting the needs of the people to found housing and clothing and medical needs. And that funding is based on, well, in order to deliver all of these things, this laundry list of things, we need 4 individuals. That's exactly what this is.
And I don't think we put that same level of scrutiny on other organizations that we give money to, like YouthNet, or even like an organization like the Rescue Squad. I mean, we have an outline of what we expect them to do, and if they do it and maybe this is something that we need to look at with all of our service level agreements with any profit or nonprofit corporation, is being able to measure performance. But this one right here, even though you may not be able to, look at say, okay, well, this $1 went here, and the performance improved from this year to this year, and these kind of things. I think conceptually it sounds like most of us are on the same page with what the organization wants to do. And as Trustee Davis Ford has said, most of the money going towards staff means that what they present to us with which I've actually found fairly comprehensive, and how many programs are run, how many people attend the programs, how many different outreach activities, all the different tours, all that sort of stuff. I'm very happy with the level of detail they've provided there. And again, I'm not sure how much more we're going to get, and I don't know what we're going to get to tonight. My question to the board would be, are you comfortable moving forward with this, understanding that next year, if we all agree that this should be done in a different way with
Yes.
Maplewood, that this process will be completely different, and
Yes.
that we will be able to find a better way with Maplewood to understand how to go about funding this service that we want to provide.
The answer for me is yes.
And I would just really ask if we could do that. And move on. I just don't know I don't know where we're going to get tonight, other than going around in
You know
circles
what I'd like
again.
to do?
The
I like to move it and let's vote on it.
The corollary to what you're saying about being a mutual between a shared service between Maplewood and South Orange, then why are we funding or proposing to fund it at 18? Why aren't we funding at the same level as Maplewood if it's a shared service between the
Well,
two?
it should be 60/40, they have more people.
They do.
Okay.
All right, I move.
Second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Davis Ford, seconded by Trustee Schnall. Could we have the roll, please? And this was a motion for the amount in 18,000, up not to exceed $18,000
As
written.
As written. Thank you. We will start with Trustee Levinson.
No.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Column?
No.
And Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Thank you. So Resolution 2013-183 has passed.
Okay, thank you. I didn't even get to vote on it.
So what you were pushing for?
I changed my vote to no.
Okay, the next is, I have a couple appointments to make. One, 2013 VP12, which is an appointment of Robert Orgera as an alternate number 2 member to the South Orange Environmental Commission. 2013-VP13 is my appointment of Elise Carter as a Class B regular member to the South Orange Historic Preservation Commission. Thank you to both of you for stepping up to volunteer. Trustee Levison, approval of bills.
I move the bills list that has been distributed to all trustees for their review and examination.
I second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Levison, seconded by Trustee.
I have a quick question. Is the
Ford.
CCR on this bill?
No.
Yeah, I have a question. Will they be prospectively given the money?
Pres-
We're halfway in the year.
Well, I would assume, I think they've submitted something. I guess we could process the first 2 quarterly payments on the next bills list. I mean, there's nothing on it now.
Yeah, you'll put it on the next bills list then.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second.
We're gonna vote no then.
Could we have the roll, please?
Yes, thank you. We will start with Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Column?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
And Trustee Levinson?
We started twice now.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask if there is any member of the public who wishes to speak. Okay, seeing as there are no more members of the public who wish to speak, I'd like to close public comments, and assuming that there's no business, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Moved by Trustee Davis Ford, seconded by Trustee Schnall. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And if any watching, we are now moving.
No, an hour and 15 minutes because we did start
Sorry?
on time.
Yeah, we just. Yeah.
That was-
And now we're moving to our planning meeting at SoPAC.
Actually, regular meeting itself isn't.